Good
evening. I'm Sean Carson.
And I'm Daniel Roberts. This is a breaking news story.
Leading news is a story about tiger terrors.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nicole Hamilton-Croft.
I'm Sarah Baker.
And I'm Jack Powers. Tonight's leading story is Tiger Terror in a quiet country town.
In a quiet country town of Harada, a tiger was caught sleeping.
The overall purpose of the project was to increase students' ability to effectively use self-and-peer assessment as a tool to improve their speaking skills. Two groups of students were set up in two different schools. The learning episode consisted of 4 sessions. Students were asked to produce a 6 o'clock news bulletin, filming their product, reviewing their performance by using a checklist which was made by the students or collaborated by the students, refilming until they felt their skills had improved to the abilities of what they perceived as a confident speaker. Introduction to the task was through audio conference. The task was for students to establish a checklist of skills which they perceived to be inherent in a confident speaker. Communication with each group was through Gmail, wikis and blogs, e-teacher mode. The students were asked to write a learning reflection on their blog after each session. I'd planned for the students to work 2 sessions on their own. However, I was concerned with one group's inability to connect to any of their communication forums, so I attended 2 sessions as an M teacher, but I believe I worked more in a C teacher paradigm. Reflecting on action was based around the impact of an E teacher. This was chosen as I felt very unsure of the E teacher role, so I knew going into this project that I had to move out of my comfort zone. 6 main trends coming through in the reflection process were the following. Number 1, changing embedded beliefs and values. As a C teacher, I have been relatively successful in my career, so I'm constantly fighting with the knowledge of, but it's worked in the past, opposed to, I don't know what to expect. So it's a matter of myself having to fight through the fear, really. The opportunity to experience the e-teacher role and reflect on the impact it had on myself as the learner has been the first small steps to my actions changing. I have a very good understanding of the possibilities available to learners through e-teaching and e-learning. What I don't have is a bank of experiences that I can draw from to help build and structure learning that will be successful and that is, I guess, proven. So that was one of my concerns. Creating relationships. Well, my teaching as a whole relies heavily on the relationships I create with students and the prior knowledge I have of their learning styles and abilities. To build a relationship as an e-teacher, I've realised you can actually start this well before you go into the learning episode or into the beginning of the sessions, and it can easily be, say for instance, Gmails and how to set up those technologies, and talking to students via like a Skype network, or I could have had them access me by phone. Relationships. Well, my teaching as a whole relies heavily on the relationships I create with students and the prior knowledge I have of their learning styles and abilities. To build a relationship as an e-teacher, I've realised you can actually start this well before you go into the learning episode or into the beginning of the sessions, and it can easily be, say for instance, Gmails and how to set up those technologies, and talking to students via like a Skype network, or I could have had them access me by phone. Number 3 is time. There's always time issues in the school setting, and the restraints that are put on us as teachers, as administrators, as innovators. So more time preparing the students to use the online technology with more confidence and independence. Particularly my team at Hororata had no previous experience, and neither did any of their teaching staff as well. So I think Another line that we would seriously look at is teaching teachers at Hororata to take a session on using a wiki or a blog within a classroom context. And that's a long-term goal for networking of the two schools. Number 4 was exposure. The more exposure to e-learning opportunities, the more independence and confidence a student gains, but also the more confidence a teacher gains. The more experiences they have, the more ability they have to construct meaning in their role and collaborate, so build on relationships to collaborate with other learners and teachers, of course. Number 5 is strategies. Building up your strategies and trialling strategies. One of the things that I hadn't considered is that the actual real authentic engagement that the students had, and it has taken a life of its own. The students, I wasn't going to do the last audio conference just because I felt pressured with time. Both sets of children Gmailed me and rang through to make sure that I had set everything up for their audio conference, and now they want to meet as two groups and compare what they've done together. So like I said, it's taken on a life of its own, and that's the whole engagement of technology and bringing about a culture of learning, I guess, and students realising that they have, if given opportunities, they have a lot of power and authentic use to projecting their own learning forward, really. I think I could have given better feedback to the students. I had stated on the wiki that, once they reflected through their blogs and on the resources, that I would leave comments, and I never did. And I think John Hattie says that it has the size effect is 0.8, which is huge, and it really makes a difference to students' learning. So that's a big impact that I could have had, and so easy to do, to just leave a comment on students' work and give them feedback, particularly around their own reflections and learning, and challenge their own thinking, and provide avenues for deeper thinking and higher order thinking specifically. Also, taking that a step further, having the peers, or the two teams in different schools commenting on each other's work would have been another avenue of extending learners' abilities and reflection modes, for instance, and also having parental input. The children went onto their wikis at home, they went onto their blogs. However, being the first one, I was just a little bit wary of trying to cope with teaching parents, teaching teachers, and teaching students. Lastly, I'd incorporate students into the planning stage. They really just came in at the beginning piece where they constructed, I'd set up a template which I was going to flick to them, and once we started talking in the introduction part about, what does a confident speaker have, the students really took over at that point, and luckily I had the foresight to let them do it. It's not something I've done a lot of, and again it goes back to that it's the unknown and that fight the fear factor. I think that there are definite places within the planning that students can be incorporated, and most definitely at the beginning, so that they can actually direct mostly where the learning is going. Sure, it's going to take good guidelines and systems and structures for them at their first attempt, but after having this experience, I'm more positive about the fact that our students are definitely in need of being directors in the learning. Anyway, I believe the success of the project is evident in the students' end product. So to finish up with, I'm leaving you with the 2 6 o'clock news bulletins.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nicole Hamilton-Cross.
I'm Sarah Baker.
And I'm Jack Power. Tonight's leading story is Tiger Terror in Quiet Country Town.
In the quiet country town.
Good evening, I'm Sean Caston.
And I'm Daniel Roberts. This is a breaking news story.
Leading news is a story about tiger terrorists eluding